All right. Um, thanks for buying the preset pack. With the preset pack, I wanted to include a video, short video, maybe 1 or 2 minutes each, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how you guys like the content. But I wanted to go through every single preset and show you how you can apply them to your photos. I also included my own raw photos so that you are able to follow along with the edits. Now, if you don't follow my Instagram page, please consider doing so. I post photos on it practically every single day, Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday I do photos of my kitten. Catterday is what I call it. So in this video, we're going to be going through 5 different presets, the presets that are in the pack. Number 1 is Estilo 70s, number 2 Camina Solo, number 3 Ciudad Gotham, number 4 Noche Buena, and number 5 Que Lindo. So we're going to be going into Lightroom Classic, and I'm going to be showing you how to work with the presets themselves with my photos, and then I'll go over some other photos as well, just to show you that you can apply them to a variety of different photos. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. All right, I'll see you over there. All right, okay, so we're going to be going into the first preset pack, Vende version 1. And the first photograph that we're going to be going through is the gentleman with the red coat walking onto the sidewalk from a crosswalk. The style that I put on this image is called Estilo 70s. And now this preset is going to give you a muted pastel colored photo. And I wanted to show you exactly how it is that I got to it, because these presets that I put together are not all preset packs are made the same. Some need a little bit of tweaking, because when you apply it to a specific photo, it may not always work. And that's the one thing that I wanted to make sure that my preset pack was a little different in that regard, that it wasn't just sold as a one-click item. I wanted to give you a couple of skills that you could take with you, that you could probably use in other photography that you have, in other photos that you have. So going back to the raw image that I provided, you're gonna wanna select the image, bring it up. It is a high quality image that was an image that was taken with my R6. Canon R6, that's primarily what I shoot. This is a raw file. And as soon as you slap on the preset Estilo 70s, you can see that this one is pretty close to a one-click preset. But what I like to do with my photography to make it stand out a little bit more than other photography is that I like to add a little bit of depth. And how I accomplish that is by adding masking, adding a couple of masks to the side. So what I like to do is with the shortcut M, I start from the bottom and I go almost all the way across with a very nice feather. And then I bring the exposure just a little bit down on that side, just to make it look good. And it creates, in my opinion, a little bit of depth, which makes the image unique. And Adobe Lightroom is such a powerful program when you're working with actual raw files. And then another one I do coming from the opposite side. So you'll have 2 masks coming in. And the other one, the second mask, I'm going to reduce it even a little bit lower, or even sometimes, depending on how you like your edits, I brighten it up a little bit. But please keep in mind that when you're editing photos, that less is always more. And that's just my opinion, but because Lightroom is a very sophisticated program and it's pretty complex, a small movement does a lot, believe it or not. And if you're an experienced photographer, then some of this stuff may not be a surprise to you. But I'm curating these videos so that you can just add it to add it to your skill set. So once I do that, I go into the crop tool with the R shortcut, and I always crop my photos for the Instagram, So you'll notice that the first thing that I did before cropping the photo was I added the masks just to see you know, how it affects the images. So hitting this, I always, and everybody has their own style, right? But I always like to center my subjects right in the middle, and I think that it gives it nice balance, using a little bit of the rule of thirds. And the last thing that I do when I'm cropping is that I try to find, I'm looking at the image, right? And I'm trying to find symmetry and lines. So I can notice right here that this line right here compared to this one is just a little bit off. So what I do there is, it's just a subtle change, right? And it isn't much, but I think the original one was a little bit like this, which gives you, you're slanted a little bit. So while you're taking a pictures on the street and you're doing street photography or any kind of photography really, I have on the back of my camera, I have the levelers and I also have the grid showing. And I always try to compose my image in camera as best as I can so that it makes this part a little bit easier. So I go in and I straighten it as much as I can. And now you'll see, for example, there's a line right here on this fence post that if you leave the photo like this or like this, it looks a little off, just the slightest, right? This one might be straight, so it'll be up to you, and depending on your image, on which line you're actually going to try to get the closest to. Now, there are obviously a lot of other ways to to compose the photo, and that's subjective to your creativity and your style. Your style might be to have you know, photos that look like this, which is just an artistic choice. And actually, that one doesn't look too bad at all. But me, on my Instagram feed, and again, it's subjective, I like to keep mine as symmetrical as possible and keep the lines perpendicular and parallel to each other, matching with the horizon and matching with other leading lines in the photo. So that's just my style, right? So that's the finished product there, and it looks like it's a little bit too zoomed in, so I'll back it up just a smidge to make it a little bit bigger. And you see how his foot is a little bit off of this, and his foot is about, you know, you can see the hand is about, it's funny, from here to here, right, with the little hand. And it's close. It's close. And that's just another little touch of symmetry that I like, and it's another little tool that, if you go to my Instagram feed, you'll see some consistency with that. They're as close as I can get them to symmetrical, and that's just a look that I like. So, okay, so that was the first one of the Camina Solo. If you want to go in here and mess with the exposure just a little bit, go ahead and do so. You can see that this right here does a nice job too. Remember that you had already placed masks, right? So the masks, if you select them again, you can go even darker, and then you hit enter twice, and then you can it'll be a more global change, and that just adds like a brightness. Contrast for this one, I really wouldn't mess with it too much. Obviously you can, but it keeps it that pastel kind of look. Okay, and you'll be able to notice that the I actually didn't get this guy in focus. I think he was on the move a little bit too much, and my shutter speed must have been too small, but from afar it looks pretty good. You can add text up here to the top, but okay, let's move on to the next one. That was Estilo 70, and the next one we're going to be doing is called Camina Solo. Camina Solo is I made it because I like to have a singular subject in my photography, and specifically my street photography, right? And I like to have it composed in such a way that you can quickly identify the singular subject, and that you can put emphasis and highlight just one subject on it. So we're gonna go into the image that I provided, the raw file, and it's gonna be of the young woman looking on her cell phone. And if you look at the actual photo that I finished, this is the finished product, and you'll see how we got close to this right here. On this image, I was actually able to capture her really well, which was lucky. She was perfectly in focus. So we're gonna go and we're gonna put Camina Solo version 1 on here. And this one right here, you're gonna see that I've already added masks to this preset. If you hit on your keyboard, you hit the shortcut M, you'll see that I have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. So one coming from the side, one coming from the bottom up, and then one coming from the top, and then one central one. Now, the central one is probably the key one that you want to move around, right? Because that's what's actually highlighting the subject. Now you can make this bigger and you can make this smaller. And what I think that this does is, because you already have masks coming in from every direction, it will highlight her so that she's actually the source of the subject, or the actual subject matter of the photo. Again, we're gonna go into the crop tool. I like to do the 4x5, which is Instagram standard, which actually it's come to my, I've come to learn that they're going to be adding a 16:9 vertical. So that would be kind of cool. What is that? Let's see what that actually looks like actually. 16:9 vertical. Let's see. You're able to get this in the fire hydrant here, which is kind of cool. Let's see what that looks like. Not bad. I don't hate it. People might have something to say about that feature though, or the feature change that of offering it. Doesn't really bother me too much. Yep. This is 4x5 here. Again, using the rule of thirds, getting her as close to the center as possible. I guess you could put her in this third as well. But here, to me, it adds conflict to the photo. And what I mean by that is that I don't know if the fire hydrant is the subject or if the young woman is the subject. Whereas if you put her right in the center, there's no denying that she is the subject of this photo. Okay. Again, your artistic vision is subjective, so please do what it is that you like. Going back into the crop tool, I'm noticing that there are some lines here, and there are lines here that don't look completely symmetrical, right? So hitting that, I'll be able to tell with this line that it is not. So again, it's up to you to choose what it is that you line up your photo to. This is going to be a lot easier, again, I digress, if you do this with the grid in your camera already set, and also the leveler. So if you take a photo and the leveler is like this, getting it right in post is going to be very difficult, because you're going to have some it's going to be distorted in a way. I'm not sure if distort is the right word, but you're not going to be able to get it because you didn't level it right. So I do my best to get it level, on the quick, because street photography is fast, right? I'm not they're trying to get at this woman. I would have missed this shot if I would have sat there for any longer than 5 seconds, or stood there for any longer than 5 seconds. The moment would have left. It would have been gone. So I'm gonna see if I can line it up here. And I often line up to multiple items, multiple lines. So I see that this one is the most predominant one, that's closest. You're typically also going to be wanting to get close to the edges, because the edge of the photo is really obvious that it's not lined up. So if you go like this and then you select it, you'll notice that this gap is larger than this gap. This down here, and that's clearly obviously here as well, where this one isn't. This one in the photo, it does look crooked, but not so predominantly like this one here. So going back to the crop tool, line it up here, and I'm also keeping an eye on this as well. And I think that I can get it just right. Yep, perfect. And that is Camina Solo. Now, excuse me. Now, if you go into the exposure, you can brighten the whole picture down, and then hit M, and then select her alone, and then bring her all the way up. Now again, if you go all the way up like that, it goes completely blown out, right? So I go back to my original point that less is always more. So start with micro adjustments, small movements. Small movements will make the biggest impacts, I think. I'm not gonna do anything with the contrast. The highlights look all right. Actually, highlights, I'll bump them up just a smidge. Making this smaller would be a little bit too concentrated, and it would give it like an unnatural look, in my opinion. Once you do that, you go to the global, you hit enter twice, go to the global settings and just bring it up just a little bit. And that's it. That right there is Camina Solo. And this preset is best used for people, for photos that you have captured a single subject close to the center of the frame. That can be a dog, that could be a pet, or any inanimate object with still life photography. I use it for my street photography, and it always works out great. And in my Instagram feed, these photos that I do with the Camina Solo or the Walk Alone series that I do always seems to get the most likes. Usually it just seems to work out nicer. People seem to really like that one. So, okay, we're gonna take the next step forward to number 3, which is Ciudad Gotham. Okay, I'll see you there. Recording. All right. After we do the 5 photos that I provided you with, I wanted to show you some other photos that are also mine in RAW format that we can apply any of these 5 presets. Just almost prove that it doesn't work on just my photography or just these specific photos. They could work on a variety of photos, even yours. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is going to go to Ciudad Gotham. Now, Ciudad Gotham is the man in the alley, and this is the finished product here. Now, I take photos like this in alleyways with harsh lighting all of the time, because when I live in the city, very close to the city, where buildings are always catching light and deflecting light in unique ways, in my opinion. Like this right here, if I had this guy smoking a cigarette here, that would make for an interesting photo, or another guy standing right here in the light where it's dark on both sides. In my opinion, it just is a pretty neat photo. But anyways, this is the raw image. This is what I actually took in camera, and you'll see that there are leading lines here, and I did try my best to get the composition right in camera. But looking at some lines like this one here, I was a little off, right? So we're gonna have to correct that. But applying the Ciudad Gotham preset immediately lightens it up. Now you'll notice that the actual finished product to this one of just slapping it on is a little bit different, right? In my workflow, I like to change the colors to the entire image and then find the composition in it later. Now that might be not the best way to do it, but it's just part of my workflow, and it's how I have found success, because I feel doing it this way gives me more options. If I were to crop in, I would be taking away the rest of the photo. So if the photo is this big, and then I crop before I edit, I miss out on everything that is cut out, and there might be something there. You might get 2 photos out of 1. Who knows? It's just part of my workflow, and it's the way that I do things, right? So I add the edit to the entire image, and then from there I'm gonna go directly to the crop. So you hit R on your keyboard, and I am going to find the straight lines here, and what I'm looking at is exactly this right here. And that's pretty much it. This pole is another good one, right? So the original image is like this, and you can see that the pole here, if you grab it, is actually there's more space here than there is down here. So when you grab it, try to get it lined up. And now Also keep in mind that straight lines, when you're looking, like for example that pole right there, typically poles in the city, or unless they're very short, they're symmetrical, they're cylindrical all the way up. But poles like that that are really long, that reach above, I don't know, 30, 40 feet, whatever that may be, they start at the base really wide, right? But as they go up, they start to cone up, and that's just part of the way that they're designed. So what I'm saying is that you don't want to line it up perfectly to it, because then the rest of the image is going to be good, right? So you want to use multiple points of reference. This happens to be the pole, but I'm also using this right here, the line that I see up on this building. And it looks to me that that is pretty good there. And you'll notice that on this pole, it touches here, but then there's a little bit more space. So hit that, enter, and that already looks a lot better, right? Just because of the lining up. Now I'm looking at this image here, and I'm looking at the space between the concrete here and the concrete here, and it's a little off in my opinion. So let's go back to the R, unlock it, and then try to get it close, just a visual reference, keeping an eye on what it is that you're cutting off, and you're not cutting off anything important or something that like a half of a body, or leaving something like that, which then this right here would be distracting, right? So you want to kind of keep that also in mind. That looks to be good. So I'm looking at the distance from here to here, from here to here, and I think that looks pretty good. It's not very distracting. This looks good. This looks good. The guy is right in center. And again, it's my style, right? Which is subjective, because you can have a different style than mine. But I like having my subjects right in the center. This guy over here is barely noticeable, so this is clearly the subject in this photo, right? So this is the image, the final image. It's a lot moodier, it's a lot darker, and to get to it, all that you're gonna want to do is go to the exposure and just make it a little bit less, right? Now, if you wanted to have a radio, this might be just a little too dark for you, but it depends on your mood. It depends on what it is that you're going for. And this Ciudad Gotham is Gotham City, but my version of Gotham City might be, I forget the Dark Knight series with Christian Bale. That Gotham City was like really blue, also very dark and very blue, and everything was shot in the dark, the Gotham City-esque feel. Mine is a little bit more post-apocalyptic, like the Batman versus Superman movie that everybody loved, right? Where everything was a lot of desert. It was a really an interesting look that I liked. Okay, going back to the photo, right? Enough about Superman and Batman. You hit Shift M, and then you add the radial filter. And go ahead and give this a try, see what this does if you lift up the exposure just in the center of the photograph. Remember that less is always more, so start with the small. Or you can go to the extreme. Go to the extreme and see what it does. It might do something that you'd be surprised, but I would raise it just a smidge. And that is Gotham City. Gotham City look and feel. And the last thing that I would do, because I am posting images frequently on Instagram like this one, go to the 4x5, rotate it. To rotate it, you drag, and then it'll snap to the actual size. And again, when I'm lining this up, I'm keeping an eye on symmetry. This corner to this corner doesn't look right. A little bit closer. And to me, what's important here is the architecture, the actual concrete sidewalk. I'd like that to be more symmetrical than the singular subject. So you do have to play a little bit of balance, because if I were to line up the subject would be closer to here, but now I'm losing this and I'm losing this. So what is it that matters to you in the image, right? And this is obviously specific to this image, but when you're looking at your own images, you should probably ask yourself that too. Is the subject what is really important? Is it emphasizing the scene? Because I would argue for this specific picture that the scene itself with the leading lines is also contributing to the subject matter, which is this fellow, whatever he may be doing. getting off work, going back from smoking a cigarette, and or whatever, right? But it gives it a feeling of solitude, in my opinion. So do with that what you will, right? Creativity is very subjective, and whatever you like is subjective to you. So just play around with it. I think you'll love it. Okay, that is Ciudad Gotham, the third preset in my pack, Vende Volume 1. Moving on to the fourth one is Nochebuena. Nochebuena, the image that I selected for this is the gentleman on his cell phone, and I actually took this photograph in Portugal on my trip to Europe last December. Super fun trip, super fun city. It was rainy, but if you're a photographer like I am and you know what the rain can do to your photos, this is a perfect preset, Nochebuena. The original image looks like this, okay? Looking at it, and this is one of the things that I really love about photography is that in camera, and while you're taking the image, try your best to keep the edit in mind, right? To the non-photographers or people that aren't very experienced, they would say this image is completely dark, it doesn't work, there's no, what are you actually looking at here? But to a trained eye and with a little bit of experience in photography and specifically in editing, you can make something nice. And this is what I came up with, right? This guy right here is adding a little bit of a foreground element. These women back here are adding a background element, and this guy's right in the center, and it looks like the light is shining. It looks like he's the only person in the world. Maybe not the only person in the world, but I think you know what I mean, right? That he's alone. He's alone. Whoever he's talking to on the other side of this phone right here. Who knows who it may be, right? Try to develop a story around him. Is he texting his wife that he's coming home, or that he's stopping to pick up some dinner, and if she wants anything, right? Who knows? But back to the original photo, right? So Nochebuena Volume 1. Ooh, now you look at this and you put it on and you're like, Victor, what did you just sell me? This is completely unusable, right? But remember, not all presets are made equally, right? So there are gonna be some presets that will require a little bit of adjustments. And the way that I designed them this way, I did it for a specific reason, because this photo in RAW is underexposed. But back here you have a lot of lights, right? And these lights are going to subtly turn green. And they're gonna be illuminated, right? So go back to the image, go back to the Nochebuena, and watch what happens when you lift up the exposure just ever so slightly. You start to see what's actually in the photo, and that's the beauty of taking a raw image or a high quality image. Which a high quality image, raw image, doesn't necessarily need to come from a $3,000 camera or a $1,000 camera. You can take raw images with your cell phone. If you don't know what a raw image is, it's just an uncompressed file, a photo file that has more data in it, that you can do stuff like bring up a lot of details in places where you didn't think that there were any details. Okay, so going back to here, right? So what I would do is keep it right around here, and I would do Shift M. And again, I would select a nice big radial mask. Maybe that's a little bit too big, but let's see what happens when we do this. Watch. It brings him up just ever so slightly. Boom. And this is the image that I selected at the very end, right? So that's my final edit, and this is where we're at now. It looks like I did make him just a little bit darker, and I composed it a little bit differently. So remember, part of my workflow is adding the edit to the entire image, because I don't want to cut anything out. I don't want to cut anything out because I may miss something. If you have anything different, or if you edit photos and you have a different workflow, please share it with me. I'd like to learn from other creatives, other photographers, right? Okay, after adding the edit and adjusting a little bit of the exposure, remembering that less is always more. Hit the R and start seeing what you can find. You know, this might be a little bit too big, this foreground element right here. Let's see, you'll be able to make this guy out. Okay, so while I'm doing that in tandem, at the same time, I'm also looking for straight lines. I'm looking here, I'm looking here, and I'm looking here. And I can tell that if I straighten it up just a little bit more, that I'll get this straight line. Let's see what that does. There it is. Easy as that right there. You can see maybe make this just a little bit more, just a smidge. And that's great. That's great. Do the Instagram size, and this would look like this. I probably would want, if it's for Instagram, probably do a little bit bigger. I would lose this guy right here, so I probably wouldn't want this to be so distracting. But if I move him over, then I lose that, right? So I think I'll keep this little bit right here. I don't think that's gonna take too much away from the actual photo. Boom, that's it. Foreground here, guy being highlighted in the center, probably texting his wife that he's gonna be a little late home tonight, right? I don't know. I try to add a little bit of a story in my own mind to the subjects that I photograph. And that right there is Noche Buena version 1. The next, the last one is gonna be called Que Lindo. Now, Que Lindo is, all of these are my favorite, but I think that Que Lindo is the one that is my all-time, my go-to, because it's, this one is as close to one-click edit as you'll be able to get with this preset pack. The photo that I did for this one was the man walking into the sunset. And this is another photo that I did in Portugal. This is the original unedited raw file. This is the final edit right here. You get to see the sun. If you look at this one, the line around the sun isn't, the shape of the sun isn't as prominent. You can see it, but it's not as prominent. The guy is completely dark. You can see a little bit of his outline here, but adding Que Lindo instantly brings all of that out. Makes this sharp, makes everything in good. It just brings everything to life. Beautiful. You can see the cloud. Did you see that before? You can see it a little bit, but adding it, look at that. That's just good. That's just good. This, to be honest, I do have to say, like the detail here that you can't see in the raw file, is still there only because it is a raw file. So without editing this, bringing this up with the exposure all the way up, you lose the entire sun, right? But you can see how much detail is actually in the photo. This is how I took the picture and how I saw it through my viewfinder. And I just thought that it was gonna keeping the edit in mind, you know, going back to that original thing that I said. But Que Lindo, boom, you add it, and she's good to go, you know. Keeping the crop after you apply the edit, trying to see if you can find anything that is symmetrical. Obviously, you don't want to do trees. You know, this one is pretty good. This one is not. These ones in the back, the palm trees, are pretty straight. But you want to find man-made structures. Mother Nature typically doesn't draw in straight lines. She can get very close, but not perfect, not like man-made structures, right? So when I'm referring to a man-made structure, I'm talking about this guy right here. This is the only line that I can see going straight up and down. So I'm gonna try to see if I can match as close to as that as possible. And from looking at this image, it isn't a cone. doesn't cone at the, it's not wide at the base. It might be, but where we're looking at it right here, it doesn't seem to be. It looks like a pretty straight. And if you zoom in, it is tilting just a little bit this way, right? So we're gonna go back into the R, and this is the little details that I think set my photography apart from others, is that small little micro adjustment that makes it perfectly straight. Okay, so back to the crop, going to the 4x5 for the gram, because that's what we do. And I love how the sun just falls right in. In terms of composition, in my humble opinion, I think I nailed this one. It's just perfect in my opinion, and it's super cool. Now, what story can you tell about this guy right here, right? Where did he come from and where is he going? Who knows, but he's off into the sunset, or he's on his way home to get some rest after a long day's work, or something like that, right? In this one, I didn't add any masks or anything because I didn't feel the need. I like the mystery of having just a silhouette of the guy there. Now, those are the 5 images, the raw 5 images that I provided with you in this zip file. Please use these presets on your photos. Try your best to learn. If the equipment that you're using is able to shoot in raw format, please do so. It adds the only thing that you're spending is memory. That's the only thing that it costs you, is memory, because a JPEG file is I'll just guess it may be 1/5 the file size than an actual raw image. So it only costs you just memory space. So take an image in raw format so that you can retain a lot of that data, that information, and you can make a lot of stuff with it. So again, I'm going to say thank you to all of you for purchasing this preset pack. It is my first digital product that I've ever launched, and I'm incredibly proud of it. I'm just really excited that you got it and that you can use it. If you did purchase it through the Instagram page and you have any questions, please don't hesitate to DM me, send me a message, leave a comment, follow if you'd like, and then moving forward, if you happen to use my preset on something with a little bit of an adjustment, do a little before and after and post it, and hashtag Vende, just to see what you all come up with, because I think these presets are pretty easy to use, and given this little video that is probably going on a little bit longer than I intended it to, I'm hoping that I was able to provide you with a little bit of education in regards to using Lightroom Classic. Now, if you did get if you're doing this on mobile, it's going to be very similar. There are instructions. I included a note in there on how to upload this to your mobile version, to your mobile app. The presets are just as high quality on their mobile, but keep in mind again that your cell phone, if you have a cell phone that was made after 2010, 2015, which I'm gonna have to assume that most of you do, it's very likely that your phone has the capability to shoot in RAW format. If not, it has the ability to shoot in both JPEG and RAW, which is something great because you'll be able to do both. Use both images to see a little bit about what it is that I'm talking about. Now, if you use Lightroom Mobile, you do not have to have a subscription to it. You can use the free mobile version and then upload my .dng files. It's a little bit more cumbersome, but you can get it. You can get it. Follow an instruction. There's tons of videos on YouTube. I may make one myself to show you how to do it. You're gonna want to save the image into your Lightroom mobile app, and then when you select on the image, this preset is going to be attached to that image. You're going to then go to your presets, go to create preset, and you're going to create a preset from that image, and make sure to name it the names that I have, just to keep you a little bit organized. And then the last thing that you need to remember is to ensure that all of the checkboxes are checked. The only one that you probably don't need to check is the optical one. Forgive me, but it's the one at the very bottom. Again, there are directions all over the internet, and it shouldn't be difficult for you to use. If you do have any difficulties, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll guide you through, and I'll be able to provide you with some resources to try to get it done. You're gonna love them. You're gonna love them. Now,